Ever wonder what dangerous toxins might be hiding in your refrigerator? Right now, what if one of the most popular health foods actually contained up to 70 different parasites? Could your family's favorite dinner be exposing them to industrial chemicals that accumulate in your body over time? What if experts have labeled a common fish, one you've probably eaten this month, as potentially one of the most dangerous in the world? Stay tuned as well. Explore the murky waters of seafood production to uncover what the food industry might not want you to know. Is that healthy dinner choice actually putting your health at risk? Today, we're going to expose the troubling truth about a fish millions of people eat without a second thought. Curious to find out? Stay with us until the end. I bet that after these revelations, you'll never look at this fish the same way again. But first, give this video a thumbs up and subscribe to the channel. Do you eat fish often? What's your favorite type? And how do you like to prepare it? Where in the world are you from? After watching the video, leave a comment below so we can get to know you better. The most dangerous fish you can eat. Nobody thinks much about salmon, beyond whether to bake or grill it. We buy it, cook it, and enjoy its rich flavor and supposed health benefits, without question. But there's been talk lately that salmon might deserve a closer look. But how could salmon, celebrated for omega-3s and featured in health magazines, be dangerous? It's a kind of headline designed to scare rather than inform, but sometimes it's worth examining sensational claims to see if there's any truth hiding underneath. And with salmon, there are actually a few legitimate concerns worth understanding. Why salmon is dangerous. The issues with salmon, especially farm salmon, boil down to two things: parasites and chemical contaminants. Parasites are the more immediately disgusting of the two. All wild fish, including salmon, can harbor parasites. The most notorious is Anisakis, a nematode worm that lives in marine animals. It's not some rare occurrence. It's common in wild fish. Some salmon species can host up to 70 different parasites, though not all pose risks to humans. This isn't unique to salmon. Most wild fish have parasites. It's just how nature works. The difference is that salmon is often eaten in ways that could leave these parasites intact, in sushi, ceviche, or simply undercooked fillets. Fortunately, dealing with parasites is straightforward. Freezing salmon at -20 degrees Celsius, -4 degrees Fahrenheit, for at least 48 hours kills any parasites present. So does cooking it to an internal temperature of 63 degrees Celsius, 145 degrees Fahrenheit. Most commercial salmon is frozen before it reaches consumers, specifically to address this issue. And properly cooked salmon poses virtually no parasite risk. That's why sushi restaurants in the US are required to freeze raw fish before serving it. The salmon in your favorite roll has been frozen in a way that makes it safe. But parasites aren't the only concern. There's also the matter of chemical contaminants, particularly in farm salmon. Farm salmon vs. wild salmon. While most salmon sold today originates from farms implementing aquaculture, wild salmon swim freely in oceans, rivers, and lakes. Farm-raised salmon consume high-protein, high-fat, processed diets meant to accelerate their growth. This dietary variation produces different nutritional profiles. While farm salmon has more vitamin C, saturated fat, and calories, wild salmon has more minerals. These nutritional differences clearly show their various diets and living situations. Eat more salmon. It's great for your health, has been said by everyone. Doctors often advise salmon as a great source of protein, necessary vitamins, and the desired omega-3 fatty acids that supposedly do wonders for heart health. The American Heart Association even advocates for at least 2 weekly fish servings. But here's what they don't tell you: not all salmon is created equal, and the kind you're eating matters greatly. The truth many experts in scientific studies seriously question whether farm salmon deserves its health halo. while the blanket recommendation to eat more salmon continues, the reality is far more complicated. When that salmon comes from open net farms, the real problem is information, or rather the lack of it as consumers. We're flying blind. Organic labels rarely disclose that salmon is farmed, let alone detail the chemicals used in raising it. And if you're looking for organic salmon, good luck with that. The USDA doesn't even have an official definition for what constitutes organic salmon. Some farm salmon may indeed be safer than others, but how would you know which is which? Without transparent labeling, making truly healthy choices becomes nearly impossible. Farm salmon now makes up about 70% of the salmon consumed worldwide. Farming practices vary widely, but in some operations, salmon are raised in crowded pens, fed processed food that may contain artificial coloring. Wild salmon get their pink color from eating krill. Farm salmon would be grayish without added color, and treated with antibiotics to prevent disease outbreaks in these dense environments. Studies have found that farm salmon can contain higher levels of certain contaminants than wild salmon. The main culprits are PCBs, polychlorinated biphenyls, dioxins, and various industrial chemicals that find their way into the ocean and concentrate in the fish's fatty tissues. A widely cited study published in Science in 2004 found that farm salmon contains significantly higher levels of organochlorine, contaminants like PCBs and dioxins, than wild salmon. The researchers suggested limiting consumption of farm salmon to no more than 1 meal per month. That sounds alarming until you dig deeper. The levels found, while higher than in wild salmon, were still below the safety thresholds established by the FDA, and farming practices have improved significantly since 2004, with many operations now using better feeds and less crowded conditions. There's also the question of perspective. These same contaminants are found in other foods too: dairy products, meats, and other fish. We're exposed to small amounts of these chemicals from multiple sources, and singling out salmon doesn't give us the full picture. So is salmon the most dangerous fish you can eat? Almost certainly not. That title would more likely go to larger, predatory fish like shark, swordfish, king mackerel, and tilefish, which can accumulate much higher levels of mercury than salmon. The FDA and EPA specifically advise pregnant women and young children to avoid these fish entirely, while salmon, particularly wild salmon, remains on their best choices list. What we have here is a more nuanced situation. Salmon can pose some risk if not handled properly, or if consumed in large quantities from questionable sources, but it's far from the most dangerous seafood option available. This habit of labeling foods as either superfoods or dangerous misses the complexity of nutrition and food safety. No food exists in isolation. What matters is the overall pattern of what we eat and how we prepare it. The salmon situation resembles the ongoing battle over whether eggs are good or bad for you. For decades, eggs were villainized because of their cholesterol content. Then they were rehabilitated, as nutritionists realized dietary cholesterol doesn't impact blood cholesterol as much as once thought. Now, eggs are considered a nutritious food by most experts, though like anything, they're best consumed as part of a varied diet. The real issue with claims about dangerous foods is that they create unnecessary fear, while missing the bigger picture. Food safety exists on a spectrum. There are practices that can make any food safer or less safe to eat. For salmon, these safety practices are straightforward. Buy from reputable sources. Whether wild or farmed, the source matters. Look for sustainably caught wild salmon or responsibly farmed options, which tend to have better practices around chemical usage and containment. Freeze before consuming raw. If you're making sushi at home, buy fish labeled as sushi grade, which has been frozen according to FDA guidelines, or freeze it yourself for at least 7 days in a home freezer. Cook properly for cooked salmon. Make sure it reaches the appropriate internal temperature of 145 degrees Fahrenheit, or cook until it flakes easily with a fork and is opaque throughout. Trim the fat. Since medicantam is concentrated in fatty tissue, removing the skin and visible fat can reduce exposure to any chemicals present. Vary your diet. Even the healthiest food shouldn't be eaten exclusively. Rotating salmon with other types of fish, seafood, and protein sources gives you a broader range of nutrients while limiting exposure to any one source of contaminants. What's also missing from alarmist claims is an honest weighing of benefits against risks. Salmon remains one of the best sources of omega-3 fatty acids, which have well-established benefits for heart and brain health. It's also rich in high-quality protein, B vitamins, potassium, and selenium. For most people, the nutritional benefits of moderate salmon consumption far outweigh the potential risks. The American Heart Association continues to recommend eating fish, particularly fatty fish like salmon, at least twice per week. The deeper issue might be our disconnection from food sources. A century ago, people were much more involved in producing, harvesting, or at least preparing their food from basic ingredients. They understood that foods came with both benefits and potential hazards that needed to be managed through proper handling and preparation. Today, most food comes in packages, pre-claimed, and processed to remove visual evidence of its origins. We expect everything to be perfectly safe to eat straight from the package, when reminded that food comes from complex, sometimes messy natural systems. It can seem frightening, rather than simply being information needed to handle it properly. This disconnection makes us vulnerable to both unfounded food fears and genuine but hidden food risks. We panic about relatively minor issues, while sometimes missing bigger problems because we lack the context to evaluate them properly. The salmon situation is a perfect example. The fish itself isn't inherently dangerous. It's a nutritious food humans have been eating safely for thousands of years. But modern salmon production, like much of our food system, has complexities and potential issues that require some knowledge and care on the consumer's part. For salmon, the practical takeaway isn't to avoid it entirely, but to be thoughtful about where it comes from and how it's prepared. This approach, seeking to understand rather than simply react with fear or dismissal, serves us better in the long run. In the end, the question isn't whether salmon is dangerous in some absolute sense. No food can be reduced to such a simple label. The real questions are more specific. How was this particular salmon raised or caught? How has it been handled? How will it be prepared? And how does it fit into an overall diet? These questions don't make for shocking headlines, but they lead to better decisions about what to eat. And that's ultimately more useful than declaring any food categorically good or bad. So no, salmon isn't the most dangerous fish you can eat, but like any food, it deserves some thought about where it comes from and how it's prepared. What type of salmon do you usually buy, farmed or wild? Leave your comment below.